to what the West Louisville community has been facing for such a long time. We've been facing various economic challenges, including health and food insecurity, limited access to fresh produce, and opportunities for growth within the food and beverage industry. And so this 7th annual West Louisville Economic Mobility Summit will aim to address these issues by engaging all of you all with a particular focus on local operatives within the food and beverage sector. We will also, of course, be bringing people together in the industry and we will facilitate a community-wide dialogue to identify solutions and foster collaboration in order to promote economic mobility. Thank you all for coming. The next person to be up here on this speaker will be the CEO and President of Louisville Central Community Centers, which is Mr. Kevin Fields.
Thank you, Ziberia, and good afternoon, everybody. I'm excited to kick off this 7th annual West Louisville Economic Mobility Summit, and I want to join Ziberia and our team in welcoming everybody and thanking you guys for being here with us. This is a day-long event, and we hope that you stay with us. Also, we're going to have a day of celebration as we get into the second segment. We're going to be honoring some entrepreneurs. But I want to just thank all of our sponsors that have blessed us with their support, with their presence, with their engagement. And I want to call on one of those. Here, Steve, if you're a Rotarian, stand up. If you're a Rotarian in the making, stand up. If you have any interest in learning more about the Rotary Club of Louisville, stand up. All right, so we're going to hear from our president. He's going to tell you why it's important to be a Rotarian.
I wasn't very good, brother, to keep you on the stage there, Kevin. We'll hear from him later, which would be great. He's been phenomenal. The Rotary Club basically is they have 46,000 clubs in the world. We're the 14th largest. It started in 1912, and it basically is a humanitarian service organization. And one of the key things we think is, in Louisville is the West End has to be given more opportunity than we've given over the past generations. The theme this year of the Rotary Club internationally is create hope in the world. We want to create hope and more opportunity in this part of the city. It's actually needed. It's also service of ourselves as our ongoing needs. We're really oriented towards trying to help others with an opportunity to really give away an opportunity. The last several years, the priority for the Rotary Club of Louisville has been this area of town. We know that Louisville as a community thrives in certain areas, but all other areas we need to address that when we can. Kevin Fields has done a phenomenal Rotarian. He's the executive committee. He's also chair of our DEI committee. But he's done a phenomenal job in the Rotary Club, and a phenomenal job here at LCCC. Kevin, you just made Louisville a better community than the Kevin and I, we've partnered with LCCC to develop the Business Intelligence Center, which many of you have seen down the hall. It's a very nice room, but also there's a lot of nice programs there. It's made a big difference, and we'll hopefully more in the future as well. And we about 3 years ago, we got together and said, what can we do regarding the West End to make things better? And one of the things that kept coming up is housing was an issue, getting mortgages was an issue. The West Louisville Housing Initiative developed a $5 million fund we raised for to basically allow people in West Louisville who were subject to redlining, getting mortgages, could pass on multi-generational wealth, and now able to get mortgages open through the program. They're financially qualified, but they don't qualify in the strict federal criteria, so they weren't really eligible. We also have focused recently on gun violence. It's a big issue around everywhere, but certainly in Louisville it's getting worse and maybe a little better recently, but it's clearly an issue we can address what we can on that. But basically the theme is, create hope in the world. The West End, we recognize, has done as well, largely just the history, discrimination, redlining, etc. And it's not only the fair thing to do to give people an opportunity, not only give away the opportunity to show what they can do to thrive with their own potential, but also it helps the community, it helps this area, it helps the city, and community won't thrive without the whole community thriving. So it's not only fair, but it's really beneficial for the city and for the economy. Thanks everybody for it. Thanks everybody. Good interactive today this afternoon. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Kevin. You know, in our Rotary Club, Kevin is a commodity in of itself. You know, we have about 4 Kevins in the club, so every time somebody says Kevin, all of us look. So it's great to be in great company. And thank you so much for your leadership of the club. As you mentioned, the club is taking on some issues that are near and dear to our mission here at LCCC. Addressing housing, addressing gun violence, and that's a real critical issue. And also today, addressing some of the other economic issues like food insecurity. And you know that the Rotary's mission of service for self is critical, and we really are proud of what the club does. So I just want to say on behalf of our planning committee, a great planning process. Ziberia great Louisville Metro government as the chief of community building. And then when he took on dairy care, I think he took on a new mission in life. And we're going to hear from him today. Reverend James has served this community his entire life. He, as I said, is a former chief of community building and is the pastor of Elam Baptist Church. His most current role is President and CEO of Dairy Care and is an extension of his service. He's appointed in 2001 to take on that. He believes in walking in his purpose. And we want to give him a hand for doing that, brother. Walking in purpose is what it records. Dairy Care works diligently to end hunger in our community by providing much needed resources to individuals, families, and organizations to combat food insecurity. So with that purpose and that charge, we're going to hear from our community's lead ambassador to close this food insecurity gap. Couldn't have made a better choice in welcoming to the stage Reverend Vincent James, our keynote speaker for the day.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are extremely excited and honored to be able to be here today. So excited to be able to share what's near and dear to my heart. And I first want to thank Kevin Fields, the CEO, that is doing a tremendous job and leading our community at LCCC and doing an awesome job in the way that he stands up for those who don't have a voice. Just recently stood up for our community because of some injustice that he's seen, and immediately decided that I'm going to take that fight on. And he took that fight on, speaking truth to power, and was resolved in one of the decisions that was made on yesterday. And I just want you to know, Kevin, you are truly my hero, because you don't let anything stop you. You move with expediency and a sense of urgency. And so I just want to say thank you as a colleague, as a friend, for many years that we go back a long ways. And so again, I'm grateful to be here. I'm also excited today to have my incredible wife with me, Gill Finley. Also known in the community as Joanne's husband. Does anyone know who I am and what I do? I work in the background, in the back scenes of a lot of different things, but I'm privileged to be able to serve our community for some 30 plus years. I've lived and worked in West Louisville all of my life, and I'm excited about being able to continue to see it thriving and growing and continuing to prosper. You know, yesterday I had the privilege of attending or speaking at a panel at the University of Louisville, where an incredible group of young people had an opportunity to present from the Wagner High School Black Student Union. that they started off with a chant by saying Bobby Ellis. And when they were sharing that Bobby Ellis, it just struck a chord in my heart because that's how Derek Carey got started, unfortunately. In a way that in 1969, on Thanksgiving Eve, Bobby Ellis died from malnutrition. In the wealthiest country in the world, no one should ever die of malnutrition. So faith leaders and community leaders came together and said that this can happen in our community again. And that's how Derek Carey got started some 50 plus years ago. But they started talking about food insecurity, and they started talking about food justice, and started talking about the issues that plague West Louisville. The same issues that plagued our community in 1969 that saw a young man die from malnutrition is the same issues that are continuing to plague our community today. And when I saw that, these young people recognizing the fact of these challenges, but they wasn't just settling for the challenges to say that this is hard. They said that we want to do something about it. And so I was encouraged by that, and I wanted just to share that with you because I know that some things that we see and some things that we experience, we don't truly recognize the impact of it until we actually understand what's taking place. And so today, I really want to talk to you from the subject of food security in Louisville, a dream deferred but not denied. And one of the things that was interesting as I think about the subject that I want to talk about, I did think, Kevin, I used to think that you was my real good friend. But now I know I'm an associate because you gave me all this heavy load to kick off this conference. And when you told me and asked me, I said, surely I'll be glad to share. I'll be glad to come and talk. And then the other day on a conference call, he said, Pastor James, you're going to be leading and keeping us off. And so depending on how well you do, it's going to be dependent upon how well this conference goes. And I said, I thought you was my friend. I thought we knew each other, and I said, no, you said me, and not only that, then it gave me a list of about 20 topics that I could look at and decide on, and I said, well, I am a Baptist preacher, and I can go a long time, but he only gave me a window of 20 minutes. So I'm going to try to work everything that he asked me to do and share with you to kick this off in 15 minutes now. I think I'm going to use about 5 minutes in talking. All right, so we ready to get started. I hope you came with a great anticipation of looking for solutions and not just talking about the problems that we're all too familiar with. There was a wise and known poet who wrote and asked a question in a poem that he started with a question that really answers what we're going to be talking about today. Lynch says, what happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sword, and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat or crust, or sugar like syrup sweet? May it just sag, or like a heavy load, or does it explode? Ladies and gentlemen, as I think about and ponder the thought and the words that he expressed in this poem, and I think about where we are today, what I want to do is look at and talk about not only addressing the visible divides in our community, but also talk about the silent suffering born out of food insecurity. A dream deferred that poetically posed by Langston Hughes said, dreams, they fester like a sword. And our city, that dream, the dream of full tables and nourished children, remains dangerously deferred. At the heart of every great society lies a simple and humble provision that everyone has the right to have access to food. It's really the cornerstone of community. When you think about where we are and what we have, it's the foundations for families. It's really the fuel for the future. And yet, in this city, that it is truly the tale of two cities. As prosperous as we are, too many tables remain bare. Too many children go to bed with empty stomachs. Too many futures are cast down under the shadow of hunger. Food insecurity it's like a relentless river. It runs through the very heart of our community and the lives of our young people in our community, and as well as our seniors. You see, it's an adversary that knows no color, it knows no creed, it knows no class. It's a pervasive problem that denies sustenance and the most valuable among us and the most vulnerable among us, the children, whose dreams are dimmed, and our elders whose twilight years are tarnished by hunger. Right here in the city of Louisville, literally over 142,000 people experience food insecurity on a daily basis. Louisville's food ecosystem, it has enough food for some, but not for all. Louisville's food ecosystem right here in our city, where 30% of the working people are working less than a livable wage. And this is even higher among Black and brown people. In Black households, it is 48%. In Hispanic households, it's 56% of the houses that are earning less than a livable wage. Right in our city, we have the working poor, where they're working every day, but they can't afford food, they can't afford medicine, they can't afford the creature comforts that we all share in. Right here in our city, the working poor, we are ranked 6th in the overall food insecurity in our nation and ranked 9th in food insecurity among children. Food insecurity is not just a mere statistic. It's a stark symbol of systemic inequalities that persist in our city. It's a problem that transcends boundaries, it transcends race, it transcends economic status. It is literally the cruel fate that leaves children hungry and families anguished. It's the affection that perpetuates a cycle of poverty. Just as Dr. King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. In the insidious injustice of food insecurity in Louisville, it's like a lynching lament that not just to the health of those who are directly affected, but also those who are now vital, the very soul of our community. See, healthy food is the foundation for health, hope, and happiness. And when we are members of this community, recognize that we must strive for the essentials, elements that everyone has the right to eat. See, the health and wellness of a community hinge heavily on its sustenance. It's not just about filling stomachs. It's about fueling futures. It's about fortifying faith. It's about fostering a flourishing generation. Let me just share a story with you that impacted me just a year into my tenure at Dairy Care. I was walking outside our building last summer, and as I was walking around, I met a woman outside. I'll change her name to protect the innocent, but Miss Ella, we will call her, is an elderly woman. She was a retired school teacher, and she said, Mr. James, I heard about Dairy Care, and I want to come and volunteer. Do you have any volunteer work for me? I said, sure. You can volunteer. We have all kinds of opportunities to volunteer. And then after that, she said, doing the volunteers as you're giving out food, many times is there opportunity for those who volunteer to get food? I said, yes, a lot of times we'll have some leftovers, and a lot of times the volunteers will take that food as well. But that question that she asked caused me to come to a pause in just a moment. I'm thinking about what's the question behind the question. And I'm trying to process what she's saying. And she went on and said, I gave her my card, I gave her information. And then I saw her. She lived around the corner from my office on 32nd in Virginia. And she was standing on her porch. And I was walking around the building. And she said, Mr. James, how you doing? And I waved at her. She said, come on over. And she waved me over to her house. And when I walked into her house, she was going on to tell me about her story. She's a retired school teacher. She had nurtured and nourished children's minds for years. She's now in her twilight years. She's now struggling, and she was sharing with me and showing me the pictures of her students, talking about the joy that she had in teaching. And then she took me in her kitchen, and I saw her cupboard was low and just had a few cans, and her refrigerator was near empty. And I said, listen, it looks like this is what she was asking. She was asking me at that moment when she met me in my office. She said, do you have any food? And she said, Mr. James, listen, I know you see this. It's not pride, but I never thought, after all of those years of working, pouring my soul into children, that I would be having to make decisions as to whether or not I can feed myself or buy medication so that I can continue to live. don't have to worry about that. I got a Kroger card, and I gave her a card immediately where she could go and get some food, and I shared with her. We have some programs for seniors where we can provide food for you on a monthly basis that you don't have to worry about that. But it struck a chord in my heart that said in the richest and wealthiest country in the world, in this city that has great opportunity, yet and still we find our seasoned saints, our seasoned citizens are struggling to make ends meet. And ends will never meet because the middle never bends. And so we have to identify ways and opportunities in which we can share and show the eventual ways that we can begin to empower and infuse one another. And we cannot, in good conscience, my brothers and sisters, literally just rest on the past laurels or become complacent with the challenges that we have today. And the reason why the drumbeat of justice must echo in our actions, not just in our words. The dream of food security to tables that are abundant with nourishment and neighborhoods that are vibrant and healthy, health and wealth, generational wealth in communities is not a lofty idea. It is an idea that's rooted in reality when we begin to work together. You see, our charge is clear. It's clear that we must move forward by faith, fueled by the spirit of fellowship and the flames of justice. Just Louisville must lead in love, learning, and lean into the legacy of our foreparents that march for freedom. We must march for food as they once rallied for rights. We must rally for resources for economic development, resources for housing, affordable housing, resources. We have to learn to harness the humble humility and understanding that we have to work together. We need to rally restaurants and mobilize our markets and challenge our churches and solicit our schools. Let us create gardens and nurture neighborhood food pantries and champion local cooperatives. Together, we can transform these food deserts into opportunities. Here's the thing. Beyond the tangible, we must address the underlying systems and structures that perpetuate poverty and perpetuate injustice. We need policies that prioritize people, programs that promote prosperity, practices that ensure every plate is plentiful. We have to embark on this journey of justice together. So how do we turn this deferred dream into a delightful reality? How do we become the blacksmith shaping the arc of the moral universe, ensuring that it bends not just toward justice, but toward joy and jubilation? How do we ensure that every Mistella, every person in this city finds food when they want it, when they need it, and have access to it? See, the reality is the first thing we must do is that we got to acknowledge the agony of absence. Amen. That to combat this crisis, we must first conceive its existence. In other words, food insecurity is not a fleeting flaw, but it's a festering fraction. And to heal it, we must face it. In order to fix it, we must face it. We must never forget that the statistics that I read earlier, they're not just mere numbers, they're people. They're human beings. They are our grandmothers and grandfathers. They are our sons and our daughters. They are our uncles and aunts. They are our neighbors. And secondly, we must rally the resources of this rich city. See, from the fertile fields to the extraordinary farmers, to the brilliant businesses, to the benevolent benefactors, we have to learn to give, to gather, and grow together. See, the entrepreneurial essence of our city can find its fertile ground in food deserts, transforming them into oases of opportunity by cultivating community gardens and supporting startups that source locally grown food, and also sanctioning space for farmers markets that we can feed our families, and not just feed our families, but we can begin to fund our future. See, the dividends will be double-fold. A reduction in the riddle of food insecurity, as well as a rise in regional revenue and employment and power. See, entrepreneurs can embrace innovative ideas, begin to work together to grow food like through hydroponics and aquaponics, like farm-to-table programs, ensuring that the distance between fresh harvest and a hungry home are heartily short. Socially conscious businesses businesses can flourish by bridging the chasm of challenge of charity, profit with a purpose, and the commerce for a community. Not only that, the food and beverage industry in Louisville isn't merely just serving sumptuous meals and beverages, but it's a citadel for countless possibilities. By addressing the abyss of accessibility, we can anchor an industry and revitalize a whole community by allowing local farmers and local producers and local businesses can collaborate together, creating a channel of champions and choice and change. Lastly, we got to take legislative action. It's time for policies that prioritize people over profit. Ensuring equitable access to nutritious food, supporting sustainable agriculture, and investing in initiatives that alleviate poverty, we can script our own story of success. See, our biggest opportunity to support policies like the farm bill that's coming up that prioritizes programs like SNAP benefits. SNAP benefits helps over 41% of the children in Kentucky. There's 1 in 4 chance that a cashier at a grocery store or a restaurant in Kentucky uses SNAP to buy their own groceries. That's why we have to advocate and fight for a living wage, of ways where families can be able to be taken care of themselves. The living wage, the minimum wage hasn't changed since 2008, despite the rapid levels of inflation. See, our journey is just, but it won't just be easy. It will take resolve and resources and a radiant round of collective spirit. Remember the challenges. Challenges always chisels character. So today, I charge you and challenge you to champion this issue and cause. Let's learn how to collaborate more effectively. Let's learn how to collaborate in a way that we can put systems together and infrastructure where we can take care of our community, those who don't have a voice. And no matter where you live, no matter what age you are, whether you're a toddler or you're a seasoned saint, even from the west, east, north, and south, any part of our city, you should have access to food. We have to develop a communal consciousness where we acknowledge the need for powerful partnerships. Let me close with this. I did tell you I was a preacher. So that's why I sweat, because I'm passionate about what I'm doing. And I always got to close on a high note. So let me close with this. When you look at creation, stuff works best in partnership. Our Creator said, you can't do too much by yourself. You need to hook up with some oxygen. And when partnerships between hydrogen and oxygen come together, they create water. Watch this. Check out creation. Bees hive, wolves hunt in packs, lions run in pride, ants colonize, fish swim in schools, birds flock, and dinosaurs live by themselves. And they gone. But bees are still high, birds are still flocking, wolves are still packing, fish are still swimming, and ants are still colonizing. Why? Because they learn how to work together. They learn how to live together. They learn how to support one another. We can defeat hunger. We can destroy food insecurity. But we got to get off of our dirty behinds and say, let's work together. That's what this conference is all about. It's about coming together and finding solutions so that my grandchildren and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren don't have to live in an area that's identified as food insecure. But they can have food when they want it. They can have justice that they know now. They can't wait for it tomorrow. And so I'm excited about what you're doing, Dr. B, because this is a great day. The seventh day, the 7th anniversary and celebration of this economic empowerment for our community. We need more things like this. So I stand on the shoulders of giants that's come before me to tip my hat to you in a symbolic way, my brother, and say, keep on keeping on. Keep doing what you're doing. Don't stop. Don't let down. Let yourself know and let the community know that you're here to stay. You're not going anywhere.
We have some great panelists coming up, but first I want to, of course, introduce our moderator, Mr. Gill Finley. Next, I will bring up Mr. Von Barnes with Kentuckiana Backward Farms. And after Mr. Barnes, we have Ms. Letitia Marshall with Berry Fruit and Grow. Next, we'll bring up Ms. Seychelle Bussey. And then we have Ms. Rhona Kamar, Executive Director and Co-founder of Feed Local. I'm sorry, I had a problem. And lastly, we'll bring up Mr. Martin Richards, the Executive Director of Community Farm Alliance. If you're wondering, I don't know if you're looking in your program, but if you're wondering what this panel is about, this panel is to discuss with the experts and stakeholders to comprehensively address the pressing issue of healthy food insecurity in our community. This is through sharing insights, strategies, and collaborative efforts. With this panel, we aim to identify sustainable solutions that would nourish our community, ensuring equitable access to fresh and nutritious food for all residents of West Louisville. The individuals that you see up on this stage are people who are, sorry, I took my picture. Okay, are people who are boots on the ground, grassroots. They are tried and true. They have shown so much obvious when it comes to being able to be there for our fellow constituents, people in the neighborhood, homeless, houseless, people who are food insecure. And I think basically if you pay attention to this panel, you will learn a lot of information and a lot of innovation that these groups are doing and how they are working in this community to work together. I'll now pass it over to Mr. Gill Finley.
Let's get situated here, just to make sure everybody has a mic. How's everybody doing? You just ate lunch. You should be feeling good because your belly is full while somebody else's isn't. A lot of times we don't take the reality. Brother, you did a great job on this. I'm so grateful. I want to be very unconventional in my approach today because the reality of food is that wars are begin and end at the table with food. Wars. Wars are fought for food. And so, a lot of times, we don't look at the difference. A desert is something that has a mile radius, but apartheid is intentional to close down actual things that give a distribution to food. And Louisville is in a place where we have an actual apartheid. It's sad to say, I'm a homeboy, grown here, raised here. I left almost 40 years ago. I was thinking about joining. Went to Kentucky State in '84 at Kentucky State and haven't been back. But I thought about it, I lived in the West End. And at that point in time, West Louisville was a corridor of black businesses, very economic stability. On the West End of Louisville, especially down by the Shawnee Park, principals, your white collar workers, you had a lot of different very, very astounding, very middle class, high-end African Americans are living there. And in my neighborhood, I had a mixed neighborhood where whites and blacks lived together. And so, in that, to come back to see that a lot of things have been stripped and a lot of things have been taken. And one of the greatest ways to be able to create a breakdown in an economic system that creates hardships is two big things that we're going to talk about in the panels when we go into it. Is when you control foods or take foods and then you control labor force. That's the way chaos begins. And in that, you're going to have an economic breakdown, a structure breakdown. And so I think that one of the most important things we have to talk about today, I get to travel all over the United States and I deal with extension because I work with Kentucky State University, so I deal with professionals in education, researchers all over the United States. I've been in Washington, West, East, all over. And one of the things that we have here is something that's going on all over in major metropolitan cities, but not only there, in your rural places too. And so today, we're talking about something that is going to affect us wholly. So I want to start with this before and give over to our panel and ask the first question. Did you know that right now, the biggest thing that's going in this room is called the gray age? The gray age is the baby boomers. And majority of the people who get to a certain age, if they didn't plan, because it's the largest population of people, and even most people in most companies are looking for it because within the next 10 to 5 years, or at the most 15 extremely, they're going to get a great massive leave of people because you're aging out. And I'm going to tell into that. So what does that mean? You're going to find out that some of the most vulnerable groups is the elderly. Because they've worked a lot, and that's why you go to Walmart and you see a lot of them now trying to be able to stabilize their lives because some of them lost their 401ks, because some of their families have been left there because pandemics have happened, because the sustainability of food and the substance abuse that we have from the ruralist areas of Kentucky throughout the Commonwealth has now affected everybody. Less farms than ever before because of heirs properties that nobody really talks about. That's the loss of land through a forced sale because our state doesn't have legislation in it, so that means you're a rural urban farm, or that means an unclean deed that has your name on it as an inheritance can be forced sale, and there's nothing you can do about it in our state. These are the reality because you're taking away land and actual access to food. Now, everybody in this room has a common interest, that's why we're here. We're looking collectively to do our parts to be able to contribute the best that we can. And that's why these panel of people up here, and these people up here have an expertise of being a staple or some type of provider in trying to handle the food access issues that we have. So let's give them a hand first as they are here together. So the first question is, what is the most common issue that families face in West Louisville and underserved communities facing with respect to food security and access to good nutrition? How does this relate to our current and future opportunities? Would one of you all like to address that? What are the common issues that deal with food and food securities and access to nutrition that you see for the families within this geographical location? Yeah, please. They got to the mic too. Everybody put your mics on. But
thank you. Well, first I just want to say I'm honored to be here with all of you. And I'm thankful to hear Reverend James, Mr. Finley say, to talk about one of the things that's so important when we're talking about food access. We have to talk about the systemic oppression that causes it. That's one part of this, right? That's the most important part. That's the foundation of this problem. And I'm thankful to be amongst a group of people who are working on that at a very, very basic foundation. On the other hand, every day, hunger is an emergency, right? I'm a chef by profession. The work that we do at Feed Louisville every day, we consider it to be humanitarian relief work. Because anytime somebody's hungry in our country and our world, that is a humanitarian issue. So that is, I think, the biggest, for us in our everyday work, we're just trying to fill the gaps right now. I don't know that we have the answers to the systemic problem. but we're filling gaps.
So in your culinary skills, you're providing food, taking those abilities and those resources to be able, that's an approach from you all. And I'm glad you said that because most people don't know the chefs of America, the chefs that come all together from disasters and they cook food. They volunteer in their jobs to allocate food within the area to provide to those who come through disaster. Would you like to approach that? What do you all?
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me, LCCC. This is, yeah, I would agree. Systemic racism is the root cause. And we know that, but I'm not sure, or most of us are aware of that, but I'm not sure if we've created action steps yet to address it in our city. I think the city of Louisville is becoming more aware and are taking steps a little bit to, they created a PowerPoint that talked about how racist the city is from the foundation. Mr. Bartholomew, they hired him, he was a city planner, to come and create the city plan for the city of Louisville, and he was a racist. And so that's how we have the genesis of redlining. So systemic racism is definitely one of those things. The other thing I would like to say is that sometimes I think we create our own trouble. We get in our own way. And for the lack of better words, we don't know how to mind our business. We continue to perpetuate injustices. And let me tell you how. So just one way. There are a lot of people, I'm a farmer, by the way, urban farmer, and there are a lot of people that are more interested now more than ever in how to grow their own food. And I'm down to teach them how to do that, right? I don't know everything, but I've learned a lot. And so I don't keep secrets. I'm ready to teach whoever wants to know. Okay? But the city of Louisville, in conjunction with its citizens, sometimes we fear things that we don't know about, right? When we don't have enough information, we get anxious about it, we fear it. We think that it's creating trouble, maybe when it's really not. And so sometimes I hear from a lot of farmers and gardeners about them being fined for growing food in their yards. Homeowners who are being fined by the city because a neighbor complained that their garden was unkept or looked unruly or the grass was too high, when it could in fact be like native grass, right? Something that is giving back to our soil. Because if we don't have soil health, if our soil isn't healthy, we're not going to have, be able to produce real good quality food, right? So it all works together. And so instead of asking more questions about, what's going on over here? What are you doing? And investigating just a bit, we just automatically have this response to come against each other. And so I think if we could start with those conversations, we would be able to cooperate, right? And do a lot more together than against each other.
That's great insight. So to be able to know what your co-partner, your neighbor is doing, to be able to have access to produce food, and try to talk about policies or open discussions that are healthy for the advancement of producing food. Appreciate that insight. Would you like to, anyone else would like to talk about the common issues that deal with food security and access to good nutrition? What are the current opportunities that we have? And we can also open it up and say, what are some of the challenges that we've already kind of talked about with that as we go forward? Would anyone else like to make a comment on that?
So I will talk more along the lines of policy to go off of what Letitia said. I think there's a lot of policies that in the city, if we work on these policies, it'll be easier for us, people that want to grow, to be able to grow in the spaces that they have or are renting. Just her same example, but giving another story to it. In the city right now, we're only allowed to have, and I'm an urban farmer, you're only allowed to have 6 poultry, right? about 6 and you're producing eggs for yourself, you're limited to 6 eggs for your flock. In that same policy that we have written, you can have livestock up to a certain poundage. I currently have more than 6 chickens at my backyard, but hey, people speed all the time. Don't nobody say nothing about them running past 35 miles per hour. I look at that policy the same way. I'm gonna speed with my chickens because I started feeding other people with that stuff. But I get in trouble with that 6, but I wouldn't get in trouble with more than 6 goats in my backyard. Because the policy says poundage on the animal, not the amount when it comes to that other livestock. So if you can imagine chickens this big, you can only have 6. Goats this big, you can have about 12 and not get in trouble with it. There's something wrong with our policies and how we do things in the city. Because if everybody wanted to try to feed themselves on their own property, you'll run into these roadblocks.
Yeah, I'm Mark Richards, so I'm not from around here. I'm actually from living in Berea right now. I'm executive director of the Community Farm Alliance, but I often say I'm a recovering farmer because I was on my family's farm in County. I mean, I think the thing that I want to say, I want to pick up on something Reverend James mentioned. The issues that West Louisville is facing is not unique to West Louisville. The Eastern Kentucky may look different than West Louisville, but man, it's the same situation in those in the hollers. We have grandparents raising kids, right? Grandparents who are struggling just to put food in their mouths for all these things. I think one of the voices that I think why I was asked to be here is because of the work that CFA does, and we work statewide. We've done a number of programs, and I'll mention that in another question. But it's the policy piece. Because Reverend James said, right now this country is trying to pass a farm bill. It was supposed to be passed at the end of September. It did not get passed. I don't have to tell you what the best Congress is. I don't think it'll get passed by the end of this year, so that puts us in the next year. There's a whole bunch of programs, and 75% of the farm bill is related to food and nutrition. It's not about farmers. And so, we're going to get into problems. If you want to know more about the farm bill, you can look at the Community Farm Alliance website. We've got everything there. But it's the state policies that we also work on, and those state policies, impact folks in West Louisville, folks in East Pikeville, right? Those same policies there, and that's what we do. That's what we work on in your grassroots-based organization. I can go on and on. I'm going to stop there again.
One insight, Mr. Vaughn, one thing I want you to know, you can't just have 6 chickens, because we run out of chickens, we all have a problem in this room. This is Kentucky Fried Chicken State. The thing that we wanted to talk about, went to our next question, which basically is, what are the primary contributions, what are the primary factors contributing to the health, what are the primary contributions of healthy food insecurities in West Louisville, and how can we address these effectively? So what are the contributing factors to healthy food insecurity? Well, I think it's important to say, most people don't realize this. Did you know that they actually put out in 2013 in September, there was a prediction back in 2013 that in 2025 that we would have a food shortage. So in 2013, I have the data, and so you can look it up, that there's going to be a food shortage in 2025. So they already knew. Why? Because at this time, they would project it would almost be close to 8 billion people who are going to want access to food. Populations are growing. But here's the things that we want to deal with that. So that's why you see less farmers, food waste, price gouging, shrinkage of products, delivery issues, and then you go on to have chemical, and you have pandemic in the midst of all this to contribute. So food shortages and food access is going to be a concern only in certain geographical locations. But this panel, as they address it, these are some of the things they're doing. As you just heard about policy, make sure that we can actually grow more than 6 chickens, and we can actually deal with the other things, as he said, that are farm bill. So my question to the panel is, what is the primary factors contributing to healthy food security in West Louisville?
I'll start. I think the first thing is access. And by creating access is giving yourself the opportunity and a chance to start to grow. So, assuming you have a backyard or space that you can grow, even in a 20 by 20, that at least addresses some of our concerns with how much food is being produced. Because if everybody was a producer and we were able to share just a little bit, that would take a little bit off of the problem that we're going to be facing with no food or a food shortage. Because at that point, we all be growing and sharing.
I think one of the primary problems is the consolidation of food and aggregation. I mean, as a farmer, when I grew on my farm, right, what it would take to get that product to you all is a long ways away, a lot of hands between it and that consolidation. There's like 5 companies that control all the meat production in this country, right? And about half of those are foreign owned. I mean, the local and regional food system development that we have been working on for the last 20 years is really exciting what's happening in Kentucky right now. And it really provides that opportunity to not only increase food security and nutritional security, and I want to say those 2 things are not the same, but then become more resilient. You gotta remember the pandemic, you went in the grocery store and the shelves were bare, right? Guess what? At the same time, the farmers markets were plentiful. I mean, as Kentucky farmers, we have the ability and the desire to feed fellow Kentuckians, but we don't have all the infrastructure necessary to make that happen. So the more we can localize that kind of aspect of it, the better we all are. And I want to give a shout out because you may come up here, but right now in Louisville, there is efforts underway to create a Food Vision 2030. So that's the people from Louisville are really into that. We all throw me out of here, right? There's this effort underway to create a strategic plan for how does Louisville become more food independent, address insecurity, nutritional security. These 2 folks right here beside me are part of that. I want to give a shout out to Nia Rivers on our staff, who's helping us as well as there's also an effort. But that is a participatory effort, right? There's a survey out right now, is it correct? It's still open, that folks need to have their voices heard. Because what's the goal of this? To create that food vision, what does Louisville's food system look like in 2030? And the other part was that to create a Louisville Food Policy Council, who's then going to implement those policies like Walnut was talking about for this community.
And if you want more information about the survey and the Food Vision 2030, and if you want to participate and come to the working group sessions, you are welcome to do that. But you can log on to foodinneighborhoods.org. Shameless commercial break. Okay. Can you restate the question?
Sure. Basically, what are the primary factors contributing to healthy food security in West Louisville?
The primary factors contributing to food insecurity or food security?
Food security, healthy food security, and how these issues may be addressed.
Yeah. Again, I will talk all day about backyard growers. People that want to learn and then are doing it and eventually scaling up their backyard garden to a farm, right? And there are farmers here that do have a little bit of land. You can grow so much food on a quarter of an acre, on a little bit of that. You know what I'm saying? There's ways to do it, but I think the community makes up their mind eventually, and so we have organizations like Change Today, Change Tomorrow, Feed Louisville, Feed the West, those initiatives where the community decided, okay, enough is enough. All right, if they're not going to take care of us, then we would, and that's not new either, especially for Black and brown communities. We always make it happen some way, right? And so, again, it gives me hope because over and over again, I see us, the people, making up our minds to stand for something, and then we just go for it, right? We make something out of nothing. So as long as we keep that momentum, you know, we'll always be in a position where it will have something, right? We won't lack everything. And so that's empowering and gives me hope.
I would like to ask the next question over you. Before I do it, listen, I don't want to lose my collard greens, I don't want to lose my yams, I don't want to lose my baked beans. Anybody out there can agree with me? They make holidays really special. So, but we're talking about having insight on how do local food producers and the community stakeholders collaborate to improve the availability of fresh food and nutritious food in the areas. How do we, again, what are some of the, what are the innovative strategies in the community driven to these initiatives to have been successful in alleviating food security? What are the strategies in the community driving initiatives that have been successful in alleviating food security?
Well, I think it goes back to what we've all been talking about today. We have to get back to microcosm, community-oriented, growing, producing. What you're talking about, these statistics, these projections for 2035, you said, we have to take examples from the pandemic, as Martin said, and from other events around the world and here locally, and realize that we have to create more of a hyper-local food system. We cannot be so dependent on resources outside of ourselves. So I'm really proud of the work that is being done in our community by Food in Neighborhoods and folks on this panel, the farmers. You know, I think valuing the work of farmers and supporting that and making sure that farmers are paid fairly for their work, for me, is at the foundation of so much of what it's going to take to have a really successful, sustainable food system.
Anybody else want to answer?
I'd like to ask a question. If anybody was just watching, I just scanned the whole room. I gave a head count, so I know how many people are in here. By show of hands, because it's participatory, right? Everybody can participate. How many people are actually growers? How many people grow their own gardens? How many people have their own spaces? I just want to count hands and everything. Please put your hands up high so we all can see it.
Wow. That's great.
Because out of 70 of us, one third of us actually grow. So just keeping that in mind, if only a third of us are growing, the same problem that we're talking about right now is in our hands to fix.
Amen.
And we only seen a third of the hands. So if a third of our hands are up, 2/3 of the people that's in this room aren't doing something that can help the neighbor that the other third is doing. And I don't want to put anybody on the spot now, but we are here to address food insecurity,
That's right.
right? So that's just something I would say, let's just think about it. How do we do that? Or how do we support the people that are doing that? Because based on what you said, Mr. Finley, it's the grade group that's gonna need it next. I got a grade group. That's my mom and my dad. Now my mom and my dad, they don't live here, they live in Florida. But when I was in Florida, the task that I had, and I hated so much, was the garden that we kept that started where I am now. The chickens that they have are chickens that I brought from here down there, and they get eggs and protein that way now. It's not like they didn't know what they was doing. They know what to do. They just kind of looked at me like, you went back to farming? Like, well, yeah, I thought it was cool. The plants and the trees that we started when I was a kid, those are the same mango trees, apple trees, oranges, peaches, and we have now that they provide food for themselves for. So they don't really have that issue issue as some people that you mentioned, or people that I know I've seen in the community that have. But it's that action plan that they took to get where they are now and where they don't have that problem. But it's the show of those hands that went up are the people that are taking those actions that will set them up for when they're in the grade. Because the people that didn't put their hands up, you are the people that we're going to be worried about in time to come.
What was the question?
The question again was, what innovative strategies and community-driven initiatives have been successful in alleviating food insecurity?
So I think there's two things going on, and we have to approach this. One is, I think they're both equally important, right? And I think Reverend James would say that charity alone is not going to solve the problem. If it was, it wouldn't be a problem anymore because people are giving every day, right? So, and for CFA, we work on the other side, the market-based side of that. Because the market, whether you're a farmer or you're a leader or whatever, the marketing system in this country is broken. I have to say that, right? So one of the things that we have is called this Kentucky Double Dollars. And it is a program that incentivizes folks who are using their federal food nutrition program benefits. SNAP is the biggest one of those, right? But it's also WIC and senior farmers market nutrition benefits. So it literally doubles. When folks come to farmers markets, to retailers that are participating, it doubles those benefits up, right? And we specify that those are only good to Kentucky-grown products, right? So we're intentionally through this market-based system, is supporting Kentucky farmers as well as increasing the access to fresh and healthy food for Kentuckians. We are it's only in like a third of the farmers markets in the state. It's growing rapidly, and we're expanding into retail. We just got a new federal grant to expand in retail, especially in the West End of Louisville. So we're on the lookout for markets that are in the West End of Louisville that can participate in Kentucky Double Dollar. I would add one thing, because we're jumping ahead a little bit, right? But we're dependent on federal and state funds for this, right? And we got introduced in the last legislative session. It's called the Healthy Farm and Food Innovation Fund. It didn't make it all the way through. It's going to be reintroduced in this next session. But it is really important, right? Because that allows Kentucky to invest in these kind of programs, right? For organizations that are getting these federal funds, we have to come up with a 50% match. And that's pretty challenging for a nonprofit to do. So we as Kentucky are leaving money on the table because we're not able to come up with a match. This fund that we're asking the legislature to set up would help that match and allow it to grow these kind of programs. I got myself what's
Letitia, once you had a strategy, you did the People's Summit, and that was a big thing that most people may have not been aware of. Why don't you talk about how that was a catalyst to push forward into the future?
Yeah, thank you. Not me. I don't ever take credit for doing everything by myself. That's ridiculous, right? It's not the most sustainable way to do everything by yourself. So Food Neighborhoods Coalition, along with Kentucky State University Cooperative Extension, hosted, partnered and Informal Lines, who took on a big chunk of work for us. But we all came together. There were about 10 of us, something like that, at a table from January till September, and planned the first ever food systems and urban agriculture summit in the state of Kentucky, the first ever. And that happened September 8th and 9th of this year. So we had tours on the 8th and then the full summit day on the 9th. But on tours, community members, partners, sponsors, everyone got a chance to kind of see with their own eyes the landscape here in Louisville as it relates to the local food system. We had the American farmers who presented. We had individual farmers that presented on how they're contributing to our local food system, as well as Feed Louisville, who is a big part of distribution, helping with distribution. So it was incredible. The other thing I want to add is when we talk about state and regional and local entities participating in funding these things, we beat up on the city a lot. It may sound that way, but that's not the intention. It's just speaking the truth about what's happening. But the Center for Health Equity here in Louisville got a grant, the Community Food Program grant, and it was a federal grant, and a lot of us were awarded sub-awards from that grant to do food work, right? To grow more food, teach people how to grow more food, whatever, build infrastructure, whatever that was. And so, again, if we make up our minds to contribute, if we really do that and then do it, I mean, we can create all kinds of things that are healthy and beneficial to our community. So that's one way that Louisville Metro Government definitely has contributed just this year.
All right, we're going to go to the next question. I think we're spending a little time here, and I think this is a great one. And that is basically, what are some ways to ensure year-round access to fresh foods and products, meats, and poultry? What are some ways to ensure year-round, basically year-round access to fresh food? How do we do? Do we partner? There's a lot of contributors in here. So what do we do to keep year-round access?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about this because I think it's one of the ways that we can combat food apartheid first, and then also, it'll have a trickle-down effect. So I grow not just outdoors, like okra.
We need from as imports, and then teach each other and do this together. What I can't do, I'm gonna do my part and cook the food, but somebody else.
Can I say that?
Go ahead.
So there's also that other option, that CSAs, right? Where you do have your growers that grow, but then the people that are like, I'm not gonna grow, but I still want local. You can always get a part of a CSA, Community Supported Agriculture is what the acronym stands for. But you basically buy into the farmer's operation, and by buying in, you get a box or some type of delivery on a weekly basis as they're growing. So you help the farmer, but you also help yourself by contributing to the operation. So.
Put your hands up. How many of you are going to try to do that more? The reason it's important to create a system, you have to have a demand and supply. It's good, one thing for them to grow things, but it's another thing for them to sell things. And so a lot of times supporting them, you're getting things that are not chemically based. So you're going to get a nutrition security opposed to an insecurity. A lot of things that we get, for instance, I went to Washington and the lady was teaching on 14 varieties of apples, and a lot of them were even from the 1400s. They were still able to preserve the seed and keep it. They were unique looking apples. She said to me and to the whole group, this is an educator, she said most of the apples you get in the store have already been on the shelf more than about 6 months. She said, I can show you apples that have been in a cellar for a year. I said, how do you keep an actual apple for a year? Now, I'm a city boy, so I was messed up. Again, I think it's going to be great. I think this is a great place to ask why, and this is all that, why are collaborations so important? What have you noticed about collaborating? Why is it so important? Because you got a whole room full of potential collaborators, but why is collaborating so important in the food area, food shortage that we have?
Because I don't have to do all the work.
System over self. I'm still in that quote from somebody in the room, but system over self.
Producing, manufacturing, and distributing your respective products throughout the nation and the globe. What are you faced with?
Yeah, to answer your first question, for private label, that's like the Great Value brand with Walmart, or Truth 65 with Whole Foods. Just their own brands, and we produce for those brands. Now back to your question. So the biggest issue we have right now is just rising unstable input costs. Okay, like the war in Ukraine has decimated the wheat industry, and organic wheat is what we source the most of. Is what pasta is made out of. Those have risen probably about 50% since that war began, and it doesn't look like it's ports are all backed up, and then the Panama Canal is, the water is low, so we can't get freighters through the Panama Canal right now, which is causing delays. So that's affecting our cost, and we're having to take a longer position to find new suppliers from other parts of the world. So just an example of what it's done to the cost of freight. We used to pay $2,000 for a container to be shipped from Argentina to Louisville. Now that cost is about $11,000. So it has risen 300% at least. So yeah, we're taking longer positions, and that's dangerous because if the price drops of a commodity while we take a long position, we're going to get burned because other people will have better prices on those input costs. Now during COVID, grocery stores didn't really care about pricing, so we could charge them whatever we could at that time. Now they're starting to get a little more tight on the pricing. However, they pushed our price down, yet they're still charging higher prices at the retail level, and that's just greed. And that needs to change. That's the biggest part. Now the next biggest thing is unstable labor markets. Here we have unfulfilled positions. We have had them for about 2 years now. We're not paying minimum wage. We start out at $15 an hour, and it's a very easy job. It's just packing, just holding out a cup under a line, and we cannot find labor for that, and it's an issue there. And those are the issues that are affecting Cotton's people whole term.
So Connor, you uncovered one of the challenges of producing and manufacturing, one being transportation, referred to as freight, and the fact that manufacturers of any product, let alone food, we're talking about food, agricultural commodities, everybody starts with raw materials and then you process it and distribute it. Talk about, from Cardio's standpoint, I want the audience to know more about Cardio, the kinds of products that you produce and the sources of those products, because we know we source your raw materials from across the United States, but you also distribute the final product throughout the globe, and freight is a major issue, right? And talk about that, elaborate on it, and then talk about what other challenges you're facing as well.
Yeah, well, first of all, domestic freight is still fairly priced. It's obviously risen a bit since COVID, but domestically it is not bad. So once we have the product produced and then need to ship it across the country to the groceries in California, it's not terrible. It's not adding too much cost. So the real issue is with the raw materials and getting those raw materials into the United States. So, for example,
I was going to ask you, give some examples of those raw materials.
I'm going to mention the labor. The labor got higher on the cost. So there's no news that everything got so high in price. So of course labor got to be, we have to pay our employees a little more as well so they can make a living. And that's, that's what we do. We have to make a living ourselves. So, but in terms of an operation, we have to be creative on finding ways to accommodate those costs. And that's when, I have those challenges every day, and we try to live with it and work with it every day.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that perspective. And I heard I'm going to bring the same question to you, but I'm tweaking it a little bit because I know for much of your career you were on the distribution side of the food industry. But the same question, what challenges do you see, what experience, what issues that leaders like you are facing when it comes to the distribution and sales of products, and how does the economy shift and change?
I think the economy, with this economy shift, is, everybody's experiencing that, shifting, what you have to do. But the biggest thing that I noticed when I was in the last couple of years was during COVID. So, a couple of things took place, Kevin. The
We'll make sure everybody's hearing you.
the workforce changed. So, what I mean by that is people working at home. So you had to adjust to that. So that's something that we deal with every day now. You got to find out a way to retain and, also keep other thing I thought was very important in my last couple of years was, the distraction of supply chain, which both these guys talked about. You'll find the supply chain has to, it has to happen for you to go. So with innovation now, with technology, you gotta be on top of that. And that's what I see you gotta do in the future. You gotta be on top of the innovation. You gotta be on top of the new technology out there, AI being one. There's new ways of doing things. And I think as an owner, you have to be able to work. The other thing is quality. Quality is a situation where we all do what we do, we're good at what we do, but at the end of the day, you gotta stay on top of your quality. So if these guys are manufacturers, I would say that they probably do it. Make sure that your quality is consistent, sustainable, all the time. Any entrepreneur that wants to get in the business, make sure your brand talks about you, your quality. This first thing these consumers gonna look for is your quality. In your packaging, when you're looking at the packaging of a product, you build a brand, that's very important to all of us, right? When you go to the shelf, first you get 3 seconds to get that consumer. That's been proven. So, make sure your package is right and what's in the package stays good.
Thank you, and amen to that. You brought up some interesting points. We've heard about challenges that come with freight and shipping logistics. We heard you talk about workforce and the shifts in workforce. We know we just came off a big pandemic where the workforce was impacted in a major way, and we've yet to really fully recover from that. So I'd like for both Connor and David to chime in on the workforce challenges that you guys are facing. And are you hiring? And how do you overcome your workforce challenges?
We're always hiring at all alternatives. We've got a very high turnover rate. It's hard to keep people wanting to do that job. It's a very, very boring job, like I explained earlier. So it's got a pretty high turnover rate there. We've always got open positions right now. We've probably got 6 or 7 that are still unfulfilled and will remain unfulfilled because we can't find people who want to work and come down there. So it's an issue right now with us. It's definitely unstable labor.
What kind of jobs?
Pack room, so it's on the line. So whether it's applying a label onto a bottle or just making sure the bottle actually stays nice and clean under the dispenser. They're very easy jobs, but they are mindless and they can be very boring. So I can see why we have a high turnover rate. And that's we'll touch on it later on, but automation is one of the things we're having to look into because we can't find the workforce.
Awesome. And David, you explained that you are relatively young but a fast-growing company. How do you tackle your workforce needs?
Well, thanks for the young, but I look young, but not, I don't feel that young anymore. Anyway, well, during COVID, I think every business has struggled on the labor force. Every business. I mean, we were fighting for employees. Basically, it was whoever pays more, that's how we get that employee. And up to this moment, I mean, it got a little better, and but still there are a lot of needs in the workforce. Every company has a need. Like right now, look at us, Ziberia Puryear has had 2 positions that we haven't been able to fill, and that is, just because there is not significantly willingness to put the time into what is needed. So we have 2 positions, and those are maintenance and lab technicians. And those are pretty skilled positions, which we have to be careful as well and who to fill them with in order to be successful.
Thanks. So, I'm coming to Gill and Gill off of a comment that Herbert started on, and actually is our next question, talking about innovation and emerging technologies, right? And Gill, I know from a research standpoint, you're keeping your finger on the pulse of what's happening in the world of agriculture around innovation. So let's talk about some of that. What do you see as emerging technologies that are reshaping the landscape of food production and manufacturing and distribution?
First thing I think I should do is deal with workforce. When COVID hit, we're talking about a pandemic that was a world pandemic. We just think of our area, we don't think world. But what it did is create a convenience for people who had become reliant on the internet. And so with that, you have more businesses that have self-started than ever in history. So a lot of people, because they were able to stay home, they became creative. There's a lot of educational things out there on how to. And now, any place in the world, you can get a product within 2 to 3 days from anywhere in the world. So you're talking about major distribution that can reach you. That makes it globally competitive. Then secondly, you have to understand the generations, because you're in a tech-savvy generation who's isolated, who only stays with and spend the majority of the time on the internet and on these social platforms. So you have an increase of more warehouses than you ever had. They're going up everywhere because the traditional stores and delivery and distributions now are fighting competitively with this wholesale approach and these wholesale deliveries. So in understanding generations, you have to be able to reach the generations, because a lot of the generations we're dealing with now is the labor force. They don't want to have a system where they come and sit, and if it's not very competitive in dollars, they won't go. The institution of education, the education institution at large are having troubles just for kids coming to class. That's at all your predominant big schools, your predominant institutions, as well as your HBCUs. So we have a big situation going on because the social networks and social platforms have created such a convenience, and it's also created a convenience of I don't want to or I can. And a lot of the things that we're dealing with certain things now are trending because of the platform. So we have to know that innovation, farming and agriculture is changing because the climate is changing. What we said earlier, you have to deal with more controlled environment growing, because the outside place is now the challenge. We have a drought, we have thunderstorms, we have tornadoes, we have rain, and we have extreme temperatures. This was a hot year than any year in a long time. But if you look at the temperatures across the globe, there were big time hots. And so that affects produce, that affects labor, that affects prices. And so we just think about Kentucky, but when you do the food access, a lot of things are being insourced to the United States because we have less growers in certain areas, because a lot of our land is being taken, especially in our rural areas, by outside entities buying up corporately the small farms. And so these are things we have to, so you have to know with more technology. So we're talking about vertical farming. If you get on YouTube, that's a big deal now. You can create a shelf space in your house with vertical farming within a small space and create $10,000 within about 6 months just growing microgreens. So you have to get out and start becoming aware of what's here, because these are the cutting edge things. You can grow different things out. So that's the new systems, and they're not super expensive. They got where you can do home type of home investments that won't cost a lot to have startup businesses.
And if you would elaborate a little bit more on container farming as an innovation and how you see that moving forward into the future.
Well, controlled environment growing is something that's all throughout the United States. Unfortunately, we just lost a big one in the west part of the state, our county. At Harvest was the largest one in the United States, but it just closed down with bankruptcy. That was inside. They was to grow premium tomatoes, but it was going to affect Kentucky in a major way. I believe and feel that someone outside is going to come and buy it. Hopefully it'll be within the United States, but a major. But that's where you have to understand, like, things are changing. The artificial intelligence is changing everything. You can't go to restaurants right now. In certain restaurants, you can't even order. There's not but one person in there. You have to order at the counter. Steak and Shake just recently changed over. You got to go up and there's one person. You got to order everything through this computer. What does that do for people who are maybe intimidated or don't really know how to access and push stuff? I would want to go and spend 10 minutes trying to figure out if I feel like I'm helpless and have to ask somebody to help me order a hamburger. But this is the reality of the time that we live in. It's changing. But going back to the hydroponic systems, a lot of these now are getting developed with water, because you can put something in the soil and grow it 2 times within a harvest, and in a container or controlled environment, you get 6 times a year or even more. So you're able to produce more because of the technology that's coming. So that's growing things by water, or it's growing things by water and fish to be able to grow and expedite the growth of nutritious food.
Excellent, excellent. And we're going to stay on the conversation about emerging technologies. And we could not be talking about emerging technologies without making reference to artificial intelligence. It is the tidal wave of technology that's taken over all of what's happening in the world. I'm a firm believer that AI is going to transform every business practice known to man in the coming years. And I just, knowing that we have 2 manufacturers here, I want to see not only on AI, but how technology impacts your current operation and how you see the emerging technologies changing your manufacturing and distribution processes in the future. Connor, I'll start with you.
Yeah, first I want to talk about the farm level to start. We do a lot of crop production across the U.S. and internationally. First of all, AI is already entered. I mean, it is here. They already have automated tractors that can drive themselves, that can plant themselves, that can spray the crops themselves. Okay, they've got drones that can go out and monitor the health of specific plants in a field. So any plant that's looks a little unhealthy, maybe needs a little bit of water, that drone will be able to identify it and alert the farmer who can go out there and just water that one plant. It will save a ton of resources and input costs, and it will obviously boost production. So we're going to save a lot of money that way. So I'm pretty excited about that. Now in manufacturing, we are behind the times. Currently we have some people taking AI courses at Wharton trying to get us back caught up, and we're looking for AI experts to come in and try to implement programs that so we don't get left behind. Because every company out there should be looking into AI. It will change the business landscape.
How do you see that from your vantage point, David? And I'll come to you, Herbert.
Technology and equipment always secure us in the workforce. We always think, this company is bringing machines and now we think they're gonna lay us off. So I'm gonna put it a different way. Technology is actually helping us along the way the process. In companies like ours, what we do is, technology is just complementary. And it helps the process. It automates the process to where we can get better outputs. But we don't have to lose anybody on the workforce. What we do is, we find different positions for the people that gotta be removed in place of the machine on a better position. We give them a career, so we help them grow with the company and help them become somebody important, give them a better position. That's what we do. And it doesn't have to be like we gotta have to be worried about the future and all these robotics that are coming along and says, they're gonna come and take our job away from us. No, because we have, we as a, and I always tell this to my people, we as a human have a brain which this machine does. So a lot of the process we companies requires a lot of thinking and creative. This machine cannot do that. We can. And that's the way I look at it, where our company is going to become successful, not because of me, because of my people around.
Excellent.
Well said.
Yeah, you want to add anything?
Yeah, I'd add to it, I think AI is a function of a process, like David just mentioned. And it's all about the people. People are behind the AI. AI is just a term for, it's really the brain, the past history of what has happened in the past, through people. So, I would say to anybody that's in this room, it's not blue, that you got to realize that your people are very important. And that your people know that, and then because AI is what the function of what the people are told, the leaders of the company.
Amen. I echo that. technology itself basically means applied science, how we apply science and engineering toward addressing problems. But as Herbert is mentioning, who does the applications? People. And so one of the things we address here at LCCC, I like to say E to the fifth power, meaning economic empowerment through education, employment, and entrepreneurship. And so I know that we've touched on some of those subjects today. And this issue of technology, I want to kind of transition to the next set of questions. It's only framing up opportunities for better performance within community context. And what I mean by that is, which we heard in our first panel from entrepreneurs who are boots on the ground, that are making things happen in the urban agricultural space. And then we're hearing from corporate leaders that have history in providing opportunity and employment and certainly feeding the world with their products and services. How do we create a better bridge through education? How do we create a better bridge through connectivity, through employment? How do we create a better bridge through entrepreneurship? And what kind of opportunities do corporate leaders see for that? And if you want to take that on from your perspective first, and then we'll come back to corporate leaders that are on the panel.
One thing that's very relevant is that the traditional landscape has changed. We had, most people talk about it, within the last 5 years, heirs property, which is the loss of farmland inherited by African Americans, we've lost over 400 million acres. And that's your people who live in the South mainly. And so with that, you got a lot of people who are leading rural and certain agricultural states who are now in urban settings who want to grow. So you're going to find more small urban growers than ever before. So, but one of the things about that is providing technical assistance. I think a couple of people out here asked, well, how do I do this? And where can I find the resources? And hopefully, like institutions such as Kentucky State, we can actually continue to bring forth the expertise. We have researchers that can provide training and things that will cause the grower to be equipped, and then maybe possibly having some tool shares that they have. A lot of them don't have the actual resources to be able to do everything because they're costly. So maybe having something where we have a tool access to them. But educating them is going to be important to being able to their development and making them aware of what's available. Even like you talked about, the innovative ways of the new technologies that are there that are waiting for them to be able to capitalize on. Sometimes it's just mere exposure because we just don't. That was the reason that we wanted to bring the containers to West Louisville, because we wanted to put it there with a central high school and others could actually use it as a learning lab and know that these technologies are available. As he talked about drones, we're going to be bringing a drone program. I have drone stuff. I haven't released a lot of stuff for planning to bring, but the key is that to make these things available, to educate and make them aware of the resources.
Education is the vaccine, and Herbert, that's your term. I'm not still with her. So I'll let you come on that and just echo.
Well, education, Kevin's talking about education, right? We on the radio show we do every Thursday out. My thing is education is the vaccine to any problem, right? So when you sit here that, if you take that, take it with you, education is the vaccine to any problem that any community has. So that's what we're doing today. We're talking about food disparity, right? And at the end of the day, hopefully everybody can come out here with some kind of way to help out with that problem in the community. That's what we need to do.
And so on that point, Connor and David, you guys are running business and industry that creates opportunity. Educate this audience on how we can do a better job, even within your respective businesses, of educating and connecting our community to the opportunities, whether it be through employment, we talked about that some, or whether it be through business commerce, networking. What kind of entrepreneurial opportunities does a Cardio Seed offer? Does a Bluegrass Superior Foods offer? Can we talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously education is critically important. I think there are certain skills that need to be taught at the high school level that are not. Entrepreneurial, I can't really speak to that,
Well, I'll help you out with that because, we've been networking, right? We've been over to Gill, we've seen some of the products, we've talked about what kinds of vendors might be available to entrepreneurs to do some private labeling of some of your products. And so I'm just wondering, have you thought about how to advance that as a business model, just to do a better job of connecting with the community on one hand, but also do a better job of selling your product?
Yeah, so the biggest thing is we don't do any direct-to-consumer business. So a lot of the stuff you see on the shelf does not have our name on it or anything like that. So I would say, could you ask the question one more time?
Just looking for opportunities to, we've got entrepreneurs in this room, and they might want to know, how can I do business with Gill Seed? And maybe taking a line of your products and do a private label and sell it. I'm just saying, how could that kind of synergy and energy come about? And if you think about that same question.
Yeah, so we have pre-built formulas that grocers and brands come in and identify that they want, and we'll produce them for that. And obviously, we have minimums. So, like the smallest being, gas station brands. So we can't work with anyone because it's not profitable for us to do it. If we do under, 10,000 units, we won't be making any money. That's the scale of economy. So we have to hit a certain minimum to make money. So to enter this market, it's going to take a lot of automation and AI, I would say, because you've got to bid on contracts and stuff like that. And to do so, you've got to get your costs really down. So we were fortunate enough to get in this before all the technology hit. So we've been doing private labels since like 2002. And that's what's allowed us to stay and gain a large market share in the very small ponds we're in. So organic popcorn and organic mac and cheese are our two biggest products. Yet that's a very small pond. We're the biggest fish in those small ponds. And to enter that market, it would be impossible to take those bids from us because we've been there for so long. And we've got the market share and we've invested in automation where it would be very difficult to enter those markets.
Let me just do a quick straw poll in the audience and get a show of hands. If you are an entrepreneur or you would be interested in being an entrepreneur and you had access to a product line that you could brand and market and sell, let's see a show of hands of anybody that might be interested in something like that. Got one here. Okay, I see one over there, Mike Jones, who's would expect to see us. That's his Kentucky Greens is an agricultural business. And so I bring that question kind of maybe in a more practical term. David, I heard you say 100% of your production is done through private label.
Yeah, this going back to the education. The education is very important, always. The private label, that's an opportunity actually for everyone and for anybody. So, we as a company have helped several individuals, not necessarily companies, has been, to start individuals that come to us with an idea in mind, sometimes with grandma recipes that wants to bring to life, wants to put a product in the store, and we help them on the process. We help them to make that dream come true to them. So to me, that is what the entrepreneur takes. That first action, that first step is very important. So if you have that idea, just get with the right people, and these people will help you develop what you're looking for. So Bluegrass offered that opportunity, to any entrepreneurial individual that wants to bring an idea that they have to life, and we can make that happen. Really.
Thank you. Now, I think that's the point in that line of question, is we're talking about innovation. We're talking about creating new innovative ways to do business and how we can empower our community stakeholders in that process. So certainly we want to be intentional about how we foster those kinds of relationships. And so you guys just happen to be representing corporate industry around food and consumers, but this same question would apply to anybody. The Coca-Colas of the world, the KFCs, the Kroger brands, all of these major and sell it. You know, I think that's one of the models, so I appreciate your response to that. I want to open up the floor to questions from the audience, and if you got any questions from this panel, please.
We have one.
You do have one?
Yes, we have
Go
one.
ahead.
My question is to Mr. Caldwell. How would we reach out to you for staffing opportunities to put into your, for adolescents to be able to come to work? How can we reach you? We have access to that, a certain market in our organization that need work. And so how can we reach you to be able to place these young people into jobs?
Okay, and are these young, you said adolescents, are they under 18?
Are they 18 and up?
Okay, I don't know, that would be a better question for HR. I don't think we can hire anyone under 18 just due to the machine.
She said 18 and up.
Oh, 18 and up, I'm sorry. Yeah, so if you just come to 1402 West Main Street, which is our competency, that's our headquarters, we give out applications to anyone who walks in. You come in, you fill out an application, and then we'll set up an interview with you. You come back and meet with our HR, and we'll set that up.
Does that help?
Yes.
Yeah, because I was thinking too, part of the question was if she's an intermediary, maybe working to organize a group of placements, is the same opportunity there, Connor, to come and say, if I'm a temp service agency, for example, and I've got a company that I'd like to, network with you open up the door for that kind of networking?
We have worked with temp agencies in the past. Currently, we work with organizations like the Healing Place and Islam's House and places like that to give second chances. We're the largest second chance employer in the state, and we'll continue to be. So we try to work with organizations like that. The VOA is a big one that we also work with. We would be open to it. Since you just got by.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? We have one over here and here, okay.
I have two questions. The very first one is going to be, is there a specific skill set that you all are looking for? Because we work with Goodwill, and as you said, you're a second chance employer, so it'll be an amazing opportunity for some of the clients that we serve.
Yeah, no, the skill set is very basic, so, yeah.
And then the second question is, you mentioned something about incorporating AI, and I know that David also said it doesn't necessarily affect individuals jobs or anything like that, but instead they would be kind of promoted up within that. Is there a specific, again, if any skills that you think will be necessary as you guys incorporate AI into your businesses that we should give to our clients or kind of get them ahead of that?
When it comes to that, if we have to place an employee, an actual employee that we have moved from a position, to move it out into a different position, we will require, some sort of education. If they don't have it, we will help them to achieve that.
So I think that AI is going to cut back on a lot of the workforce. I think it will become a more centralized, specialized job. So it'll require a specialized education to, whether it's, maintaining the machines or maintenance or, troubleshooting the machines. I think it's going to be more specialty jobs that we need to.
I like to comment on that. I started my career on the truck in the route business, right? Ended up, running the operation that I started with within a couple of years. So I think it's an attitude more than anything. When you start talking about growing up in the company, you got to have an attitude to grow and willing to learn. If your people have that trait, then they're gonna be somebody that's a good candidate. I mean, that's why you hear all the time D&I. Ms. Kevin's involved with that right now with Rotary. The D&I must have a name, but it has some quality, things about it, right? So attributes being, you got to want it. So if anybody, that wants it, they be a good candidate for any job.
And I would add to your question, the kinds of skills that I think are important with AI that we should all be practicing and learning. And one of the things that AI does, it really simplifies computer coding We all know what coding is. It's programming. It's setting up a computer to apply a solution to whatever you want to accomplish. And AI is really simplifying coding, but it's key. What's important is how you instruct AI to work. And it's all about language. It's all about how you present a problem, how you state a need that you want this, whatever application to address. And so one of the things I see as a user of AI is you can ask a basic question or you can ask a complex question. You will get a different result. So it's all about learning the skill of how to code, and that's simply by asking the computer to deliver based on a set of instructions. And we all know how to give instructions. So I think that's one of the things I encourage everybody to learn is don't be afraid of it, because it's just a matter of learning how to ask the right questions and input that information into whatever app, and then learn based on how it responds, because you may not respond perfectly the first time to what your end product needs to be. Then you can rethink how you frame that question and try it again. And it's a trial and error kind of a process. So that's been my experience as a user. All right, any other questions? Got a question?
Yes, we got a question over here.
Yes, Ms. Carnell, you said that your minimum order is 10,000 units. If you are a smaller producer and trying to get into grocery stores or specialty stores or what have you, and want to use a co-packer, are there co-packers that have smaller minimum orders?
Yeah, there will be co-packers that have smaller minimums, but we've been around for a while, so we've established a big market share, which is why our minimum is so large.
We have another question over here.
So my concern is always about education, and I agree education is the
For specific things. So if you're interested in one or the other, that will determine what location you'll be in this building. So our first breakout room, the topic will be for entrepreneurship in food and beverage. So if you're interested in that entrepreneurship, if not, then someone outside of this door can also walk into that location. The second breakout room will be dealing with tourism and hospitality. So if you're thinking about getting into the tourism and hospitality industry, especially here in the West Louisville market, please make sure you make your way across the hall to classroom, and that way you'll be able to talk to industry professionals. We have, of course, give us an answer, and then we will also have question and answers right after. So the first question I pose to you all, and this one, I'm gonna have Mr. Ricky Mason answer this one first. How can a business in West Louisville take inspiration from a co-op model?
I think.
Did you know what a co-op model is? Okay.
Co-op, the grocery store.
Yes.
Yeah, so actually we lived in Lexington for a while. One of the biggest co-ops in the state, Good Foods Co-op, frequented, their business. I think it's a huge opportunity for small businesses and businesses that are looking to start their distribution efforts to look at co-ops. I think that co-ops really do a good job of supporting small and local businesses. When we talk about buying Kentucky Proud food, I think one of the best places to look is going to be a co-op in terms of finding those types of food and opportunities not only for us as consumers to buy, but for those distributors, those growers to bring those value-added products to market.
Thank you so much. Next. Answer that question, or do you have any other input you want to add to that question? And the question was, how can a business in West Louisville take inspiration from a co-op model?
I don't know that I have any expertise that can speak to that.
Okay.
Rather than to other experts in that area.
Okay. Mr. Tom, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Really, the only thing I think I would add, there's an issue of sustainability. There's things that large corporate, grocery stores, they don't do. They provide groceries, but it lacks a lot of other things that I think the community needs. So to put that back in the hands of, the people of the community, whether it's a coffee shop or grocery store or whatever it can be, I think it's an empowering thing.
with the rising costs to do business, the cost of property and overhead, to be able to share that, spread that out, I think can be advantageous for people that may be lacking capital to get things done. So I think those models are gonna help fuel that type of growth in communities and sustainability.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Barber.
Yeah, what I would add is the Black community has taught us so much about cooperative economics, going back to right during the Reconstruction and afterwards. Jessica Gordon Nenhart, I think that's how the name goes. She wrote a book called Collective Courage, which documents that history. It's a big book, but it's a great read to learn about the very successful cooperatives that were developed during the late 1800s, early 1900s. They were destroyed mostly by capital, various issues of racism that came up, but that history is there, and it speaks to the issue that you raised of folks with less capital who are starting from a lower place, pool their energies, pool their capital so that they can get to the place where they need to go. So whether it's at the consumer end or at the producer end, you've got smaller scale farmers, urban growers and so on, they need to pool their efforts so that they can market into bigger markets, which won't take just 10 heads of cattle.
All right, thank you so much for that. This next question specifically is going to be for Mr. Doug. Okay, what role does the hospitality industry play in West Louisville's economic growth?
Well, that's an area that we spent a lot more time focusing, talking, and resource in the last 3 years than we probably did in the 15, 20 years previous. The hospitality industry, from a workforce development, we are trying to take sustainability messaging to the meetings and conventions world. Those are two ways. We need staff. And I said in the first break, sorry about repeating myself, but we have not done a good job of defining the opportunities within our industry. They're not as low paying today. Sure, they've gotten a lot better at COVID. We've done one thing, increase the starting salary. We need to do more. They're not where they should be. But we need to train people. We need to get people ready to fill that next hotel that's going to be built in the West Louisville community. It will get built. It will have enough synergy. Tom pushing out successful restaurateurs that create the activity and the dynamics that go into creating the demand to make a project like that work. So we're spending a lot of time trying to impact awareness of what our industry is, the exciting career opportunities that exist, and you don't have to go to college for it. You don't have to spend and go into debt, great debt, to be successful. Create the right expectation up front, get a couple mentors involved, get hotels at restaurants, parks, you name the gamut of the hospitality industry, who needs employees. And as a little tourism, we're spending a lot of time and money trying to make an impact in that area. That would be one thing.
Thank you so much. Anyone else want to add to that? I know it's not your expertise, but that's why I sent it to Mr. Doug. All right. Our next question. How can we increase food production in a sustainable way and enhance food security? I'll give that to Mr. Mason.
Well, you all know I'm going to lean in towards technology. We know that we have several problems going on with our food system. We have an aging food system, which the majority of farmers that you count are 60 plus. What are we going to do to combat that? And we know that we're going to pull more young folks into the farming industry. The majority of folks live in urban areas. So we're talking about traditional farms. They have acres upon acres to grow on. They've been doing that for who knows how many years. But if we're going to bring in a new group of farmers, a new age of farmers, then we're going to have to make farming look sexy. And I mean, my generation, we a little bit more and show that, hey, there's a robot in there growing, your food. That you don't have to be in the dirt. This is all grown in water. Matter of fact, there's no dirt as a part of our entire process here. This is all automated. So one of the projects that we're working on is the Kentucky Urban Ag Incubator and Demonstration Hub. And this is a hub that is going to provide technical assistance and teach people how to grow in new ways in urban settings. Because, we can grow in our backyards in the dirt, and yes, we can be successful, but we know with climate change, those farmers that are growing traditionally, they can't predict their yields. They don't know what's going to come out of that field year by year. And that's why we have crop insurance and the government kind of subsidizing, some of those things. But as that dries up, we're going to have to find new ways to grow, and that's going to be using protected environment. So that's greenhouse, if that's a polytunnel, if that's indoor grows. And I mean, we're so early on in this, state of using technology to grow that we don't have that expertise. And we talk about AI, all day. When we talk about farmers being 60 plus, how are we going to pass that knowledge down to the 20-year-olds? And we don't have enough of them on the farm in the path to become that, knowledgeable farmer. Then we're going to have to figure a way to transport that knowledge down. And that's going to be using AI technology to make that happen. So we're going to use AI to give young farmers the ability to grow like skilled 60-year-old farmers. And that's the only way that we're going to meet the needs of 2050 of 10 billion people around the world that need food.
Thank you so much for that. Mr. Andrew, you want to answer that, and I'll repeat the question. How do we increase food production in a sustainable way and enhance food security?
What is the most efficient, powerful energy source we have?
Johnson.
Life has been supported by it since the beginning, and it's still the most important energy source. And so I think indoor farming has a role, but it's always going to be the sun, the soil that provides the nutrients that make up what our bodies are made of. So I think, we've got to figure out ways to get land into the many beginning farmers and young farmers who are trying to get on land and to grow food in that traditional way. And diversified farming systems with animals, with poultry, with cows, manure, all of that is very adaptable to a changing weather pattern and climate. So we've got to figure out how to get land into the hands of people, whether it's in the urban areas or rural areas, before the developers and the corporations and the speculators buy it all up.
I like to add to that, when we talk about land and sustainable ways to grow, we're using vertical farming and controlled environments. We're talking about 10 times the production on the same land. So what we grew on an acre, we grew on a 10th of an acre. That's someone's backyard right here in West Louisville. So if we have 10 backyards that are growing acres worth of food on each block, then we can change the lives about what's going on in our neighborhoods.
The other little piece that was my mention, until we get to having universal basic income, it gives us the basic income we need. People need jobs. So a lot of these high-tech farming systems are less labor-intensive. Farming is labor-intensive, it's hot, it's hard work, but it provides a lot of jobs for people. So they need to be better paid, and the price of food these days, it can be better paid. If we have living wages that we were talking about earlier, so we can pay farmers what they deserve for their production.
Thank you so much. I'm actually going to hurt for a little bit. Mr. Tom, how about you? What do you see, especially in the space that you have, as far as sustainability is concerned, like they were talking about agriculture, and then also the individuals that you work with and the food that they produce at the show space?
The food production part of sustainability that I think is important. I think supporting local food options is another, way to do that. A lot of times you're going to have healthier food choices. You're actually keeping dollars in your community. Even if you have a franchise owned by a local business owner, the majority of the dollars that people are spending at the dollar store, the Family Dollar, McDonald's, those aren't staying in our community at all. So just being able to support a local food option, again, hey, it's probably a healthier system, but you're being able to keep some of that money in here. That goes a long way to sustainability. But I think the problem is so systemic. I mean, the way we subsidize our food on a national level, it's not conducive to any of the things we're talking about. So even these local revolutions we need, it's such a systemic embedded issue. It takes education, it's going to take some corporate interest change, it's going to take a lot of national policy to be able to, I think, make these things actually happen.
Thank you so much for that. Okay, our next question, and this of course will go to Mr. Ricky Mason because she was actually touching on this a little bit. How can aquaponics and hydroponics farming help create sustainable food systems?
As we kind of talked about earlier, we're losing fertile farmland at the rate of the size of Maine each year. So we're growing in traditional ways. So we're talking about we need to come forward as regenerative farming, no-till farming, to help save that fertile farmland, but we can mitigate all uses of, and save a lot of that farmland before it gets to the point of being unfertile if we move our production to high-tone farming or greenhouse farming. So I think that that's the biggest takeaway from why we want to move from soil-based farming or traditional farming into a hydroponic or aquaponic farming. Now, on the bigger side of that is we talk about profits. We're talking about this is a business, as we know when you're running a farm business. Now, tell me, most farmers cannot predict the yields of their crop year to year. Anybody tell me why?
Because they are.
You don't know what's going to happen. You don't control that. So they're praying, for rain. They're praying that the conditions are conducive to them having a large yield. But when we talk about controlling the environment, I took a trip to the Netherlands recently to see how they grow indoors. And that was it was really eye-opening to see them say, hey, yeah, I can predict per vine how many pounds of tomatoes that we're going to have this week, next week, and year to year. And that provides a lot of sustainability, but also predictability for that farm and their operations. So I think that when we talk about hydroponic and aquaponics, we have to think about it from that perspective. And growing is like we grow at 50% of the time when you're using a hydroponic system, aquaponic system. These systems allow you to grow in a way that's way more efficient than growing in dirt. You're not digging, in your dirt. You're not tilling your dirt. So I think that there's just a lot of opportunity for farmers to learn how to grow in these places. There's less than 1% of produce in the States being produced in controlled environments. So it's an educational thing that most people don't know how to vertically farm. They don't know the possibilities of what's out there. And because we've been doing what we've been doing for so long, in terms of educating folks to these new processes and the possibilities of hydroponic and aeroponic farming, I think it's going to be our biggest challenge, in the near future.
Okay, actually speaking on that, because I know some people, like I said, I did some research, of course, dealing with food insecurity before we came here. However, I know some people in the audience might not know the difference between aquaponic and hydroponic. Can you break that down for them so that they'll know at least the difference of that? And of course, then we'll have you break down some of the agriculture as far as traditional farming.
So, hydroponic farming can be done in various ways. So that's deep water culture, where you've seen someone probably take like a foam float and sit it on top of a bit of water, and they can grow lettuce that way. So that's one deep water culture. You've probably seen NFT. That's where they take the gutter looking systems, cut the holes in, and the water kind of flows over the roots. So that's another type of hydroponic farming. You may have seen time of your growth so that you can optimize your growth system. So we're actually taking those nutrients and putting those into the system. With the aquaponic system, the fish or whatever living creature that you have as part of that system is providing those nutrients. So when those fish, do their thing, they eat and poop back out. That's what we want to feed those plants. So that's providing the nutrients in those systems. So it's kind of a closed system there. You have aquaponics where you can, eat those fish once they become large enough, the size. So that's tilapia is one of the ones that is very popular. Some people have tried catfish there, but you can, harvest those fish as a part of that process. And so now you're not only selling food, but you're able to sell seafood also at the same time.
Thank you so much. Mr. Andrews?
Yeah, in some ways, it's kind of a similar breakdown you do with regular farming. Conventional, industrial, monocropping is basically like a hydroponic in the sense that you're bringing in inputs from outside and putting on your soil, which is usually pretty dead because you've been putting herbicides and pesticides on it for decades. And then you, with synthetic fertilizers, you're growing plants in this substrate, which is basically your soil that you've added nutrients to. Traditional farming, as it's been done for the last 15,000 years, is picture your typical family farm with a bunch of different animals, you've got composting, you've got manure being produced. It's kind of that closed loop system where everything is done on the farm and you're not bringing inputs from outside. That's kind of the two spectrums of the kind of in-ground farming system.
Okay. Either one of you all want to add anything to?
I will count on things first.
Me too. I don't have to bring them. But of course, there are people who specialize in that. And of course, as we heard from our first panel, there are a lot of people who are willing to teach these new technologies and these new ways of doing things. And then also the traditional way. We had some people who were talking about, of course, creating the raised beds in the West End a little, and for people who, of course, might be renting and not owning, and they can't put a permanent structure down, but they can put a temporary structure, but they're also renting those properties as well.
Just add to that, the urban setting kind of can mimic that closed loop by just composting stuff from your trash or yard clippings. And then, because we're in Kentucky, we've got lots of horses. So there's manure around to bring onto your farm. It's not a closed loop, but it's actually, at least it's a closed Kentucky loop.
All right. The next question. What are some opportunities for building more sustainable, resilient, and inclusive food systems? Anyone can take that.
I'll approach that from meetings and conventions. We'll host 800 meetings and conventions this year in various sizes. We are trying to create more of a sustainability message within that group comes. Some leave a different type of footprint than they leave than others, but we have to do a better job in our industry of being kinder to her. And I was on a trip recently in Boston. Had the fortunate opportunity to tour Fenway Park. And lo and behold, I see in the center field, not a small herb garden, and it was more than herbs. I mean, they were growing lettuce, tomatoes, radishes, carrots, you name it. They were building it for their use, but it was also, it was well beyond Boston didn't make the playoffs, so the park was closed, but they were still processing, and all that was going to the community. That as long as the Boston climate was going to allow it to get grown and grow. We did global tourism. We're trying to, we're just in the beginnings, but that's a way of promoting and battling against some of the food insecurity by creating, wouldn't it be wonderful if everyone maybe took a more active use in what their rooftop looked like? What if the Kentucky International Convention Center created on their rooftop, something to the scale that we saw in Finley Park. And if you start multiplying that, you know, over time, suddenly you're making an impact to, and maybe one of those food markets that we talked about could sprout out in this neighborhood. You know, so that the food insecurity could be addressed over that. We're trying to make a statement to get started and down that path from meetings and conventions. Let's don't have the devastation that we have on our carbon footprint when we come to meetings. So.
Thank you so much for that. All right, Mr. Tom. What are some opportunities for building and for sustainable, resilient, and inclusive food system?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of answers to that. I'm somewhat of a pessimist, so I always think about all the challenges in the way of that. And kind of what we were talking about, I mean, it'll take a lot to do that. I think supporting local businesses is a big step. I think finding solutions to being able to farm more, being able to farm more locally and in smaller sizes, so we're not as reliant on commercial agriculture. I think educating people on just basic nutrition and how awful processed foods are for them, and you know the dangers of consuming them and the amounts we do. There's so many challenges in every institution that it seems very overwhelming. But those are some of the things that I think about. It'll take to at least start overcoming some of these barriers of a more sustainable, local, you know, food production, food consumption system.
Thank you so much. Mr. Mason.
I think one of the big things is group economics, right? You know, if we're going to grow our farm, grow our small business, and we want grower contracts, we want those large contracts, then we need to make sure that we can be consistent with providing to those individuals. And what I've seen in other countries, smaller farms have come together as a collaborative to kind of make that happen. So instead of me being responsible for coming up with every word for Kroger throughout the entire year, you know, I have 10 other farmers that are growing tomatoes that we can lean into since we have this collaborative. So I think that we have to realize that the market is bigger than Louisville. The market is bigger than Kentucky. We have the whole Midwest. We can touch, you know, half of the United States in a few hours. So we have the ability to have something picked at 8 a.m. and on someone's table for dinner at 6 p.m. So I think that we have to take advantage of, you know, those opportunities, you know, here to connect with those folks and provide that, come together as a group to make sure that we can provide that consistency. And I think another thing is, again, a lot of folks don't know the capabilities and possibilities of what we can do growing hydroponically or in these various ways. I think that tourism is a big part of that. We need some demonstration piece. We need a big urban ag, I don't know if it's like a center, but at least something of a green wall, you know, that you can refer to and say, hey, this is something awesome. I know this is happening here. And so I think that those are kind of a few of the pieces that are kind of missing.
Thank you so much. Did you want to add anything, Mr. Andrew?
Sure, yeah, yes to all of that. I think for the Food Neighborhoods Community Coalition, one of the things we've been talking about is how to turn the racial uprising of 2020 into substantial gains in resources in communities that have been exploited and extracted from for decades. So that's why we applied for a USDA Department of Ag grant, got a $250,000 grant to put together a food vision 2030 and a food council to implement that, to try to make real gains for the communities that were left behind or, you know, deliberately extracted from. So how do we do this? How do we build this in a way that creates kind of a container for BIPOC producers, for farmers, for aggregators, for entrepreneurs, for markets that allows them to gain a real foothold and come up from under the level playing field that they've never been at and really prosper. So that's what we're trying to build into this Food Vision 2030, and we love everyone's help in terms of talking about what's in that and power to a food council that represents all of your communities and can carry that forward through policy, through building the infrastructure, building urban agriculture, and all of those things. So just ask for your participation and help with that initiative.
Thank you so much for that. And we have one final question, and then we'll go for I wanted to bring this question up. There are a lot of businesses in the east end of Louisville. We know that. There are some businesses in the west end of Louisville. A lot of the west end of Louisville businesses, they struggle to thrive. But a lot of the east end businesses are thriving. Of course, we know they're getting new publics, that they're hiring for right as we speak. Yet we struggle with grocery stores here in the West Louisville area. What would you think, and this is for Mr. Doug, what would you think would be the solution to being able to sustain a business as far as the tourism is concerned, or as far as bringing in revenue for West Louisville?
We talked about this in the previous breakout. It's a puzzle, and what you might think is a significant investment factor that basically boils down to creating reasons for people to be walking around, creating reasons for people. The only people that have the 9th Street ride in their heads are us. That visitor coming from St. Louis does it. That visitor coming from wherever does it. And we can't make an investment, create a restaurant, waterfront park, less expansion is critical. You get people walking around in your community, the track complex. We talked about this. If we can get more events throughout the year, that the indoor track season is basically into November to into February. Well, that's great. And we're going to put events there, and that creates people walking around. We've got to figure out what can be put in June, July, August, September to help create a more consistent, I'm using this metaphor, people walking around, it's activity. And that attracts developers. That attracts the next restaurant, the next drunken crab restaurant, or investment in the community. It takes, again, it's a puzzle, and every piece is an important building block for that puzzle.
Thank you so much. Anyone else want to add to that?
That's why it's always a challenge with economic development, right? You want the restaurants, you want the grocery stores there before the people move in. People are like, hey, I'm not moving there to go through the struggle of driving long distances to get to a grocery store or whatever. I think that we have to find those champions, those folks that are willing to go through that time. And we have to provide policy that incentivizes them to move there, to live, in West Louisville. If that's what we need, we know that people typically open businesses near their home. And if my home is in East Louisville, then I'm not opening a business in West Louisville. I can't get there in less than 25, 30 minutes. So we have to support more business owners that live, near the West End, in the West End, and make a better job of supporting, those businesses when they do. All of us see those businesses open up, like you said, they're struggling to thrive. Partly is because of lack of support, and part of it could be that they don't have the skills necessary to really run a business sustainably. So I think that that's another thing that we have to look at, is educating business owners and supporting those business owners through those growing pains of being new business owners, because our families don't have a lot of experience doing this thing. I didn't have anybody in my family that bought or invested in real estate before I did. I didn't have anybody
resource you want to tell them about, so that, of course, they can also reach out to you at the end or at another time?
Two notes I'd like to make is, when we're talking about farming to underrepresented communities, farming pays 25% at $57,000 median household income, more than most Black homes make. So that's already leveling up the level of wealth for Black households. So that's 25% more there. And when we talk about wealth, farmers hold 43 times the amount of wealth that the typical Black household has. So when we talk about changing the lives of our families and our communities, think about that. 25% more income than the average household and 43 more times as well.
Thank you so much for that. And if you all want to give our panelists a hand for coming and sharing their information with us. Of course, like I said before, there are resources available for you all to be able to get information from each individual person. We get our resource for a lot of people have backed up, but there are a couple people still over there with some resources for you that are available. And actually, I don't want to keep them too much longer. Thank you all. And as this is the ending of our program, what I do want to say is I want to thank each and every one of you all who came out to listen to this information. Hopefully you all apply it, hopefully you all coordinate with each other, and of course cooperate with each other, because there's a lot of resources out there for each and every one of us. There's a lot of organizations, companies, and places that we can go in order for us to enrich each other. So if you take this information that you learned today and you apply it, I'm quite sure that I'll see a lot of you all doing extraordinary things within the community and around these opportunities. I also want to give a special thank you to our sponsors who came and who also donated. We have, of course, our Rhona Bowles Kamar. They were our guys today for our sponsors. We have One West who also donated. We have Rhona Research Group, LLC, which is also one of our tenants here in the building. We have the Commonwealth Credit Union, West Louisville, Sherwin Baird Advisory, LLC, 4th Street Live, Amplified Louisville, the Waterfront Development Corporation, they were also in the back, Metro United Way, the National Council of Negro Women, G Storch Realty, and also Kimberly Bell Foster. If we can give those a round of applause for all of us. I really want to give all the thanks to all of our staff members who also put together today, myself included, but also we have our visitors, Mr. Herbert, Destiny, Chandler, Brian. We had a lot of people who, of course, dedicated their time and their commitment in order for us to get this going, and a lot of people who also showed up to all of our committee meetings and who also offered great input and was able to make everything a success. I thank you all for coming out. God bless. Good night.
Please give Ziberia Puryear and Adult and Special Population Services, and she's a veteran, having been with us about 6 months now. This is our first Economic Mobility Summit, and certainly she's done a great job of organizing this day, so let's give her a hand, please. Thank you. The same way, but let's don't need a break. We're going to get right into the celebration phase of this summer event. Our Lightweight Entrepreneurial Excellence Awards. And I really want to celebrate this moment because it means a lot to me personally. It means a lot to this organization, local central community centers. And I think it means a lot to this community that we all work hard to empower and improve and take on challenges and all the while moving away to celebrate celebrate. So this is the celebration phase of the program. And, I've been checking out the room over there. And, my family likes to stand in the way of food, drink, right? So we're going to get right to it. We got a room full of food, a room full of drink. And we're going to turn this into a social hour. But not before we take on what this hour calls for. And that is the presentation of the Sam Wiley Jr. Lifeway Entrepreneurial Excellence Award. And this is our third year of this particular program, and we're just excited about it, really excited about the honorees tonight, very proud of each one of them. You're going to learn about them, you probably know them, know about them, you're going to learn more about them tonight as a part of this program. And we want to get right into it so we can do a really job staying on schedule for this last hour, because we want to spend the final hour really celebrating these honorees. So I'm going to ask everybody after we get done with the program to please join us in the next room over for some fellowship, for some food, and some drink. And Roblox has showed up, and we got way to drink in the house, so we want to get right into that. So let me take a little bit more about this award, the Sam Wiley Jr. Lifeway Entrepreneurial Excellence Award. Matter of fact, we need to unveil these awards. Where's my family? Okay, thank you. Yeah, Deborah Blinsky, Executive Director of Farm Corporation. Give her a hand. So, this particular award was named after a gentleman who served this organization with very, very high distinction, Sam Wiley Jr. I'm proud to say that he was my predecessor, and I'm honored to stand on his shoulders, because this building that you're in, this 110,000 square foot purpose campus that includes wonderful event space, it includes a 20,000 square foot business incubator that's full with a diverse group of businesses. It certainly includes the Triple C's headquarters and our family services division, but it also includes a bright future, a beacon of hope for this community. This is the house of Sandfield, and we want to make sure that we continue to honor his legacy. And this particular award is a part of that legacy building that we're doing in honor of Sam. So we have worked on curating a very special award, which you can see. You'll get a chance to look at it close in just a little bit. But I do want to acknowledge he's not here tonight as I look around the room. I see you, William. Trying to get somebody else's attention. Ben Ruiz is a dear friend of this organization, a dear friend of this community. Ben is the Chief Operating Officer with Ad Hoc Advertising, the Chief Executive Officer is his wife, Sonia, and Ben still serves in his retirement as an American Vista. We have a great Vista team here. And Ben worked with me in curating this award, the Lifeway Entrepreneurial Excellence Award. And I always want to acknowledge him because he's a little under the weather. I'm going to ask for your prayers as he continues to heal. But he did a phenomenal job of helping us shop the country and find a place down in New Orleans that would customize this particular award and make it available to our honorees who are high impact entrepreneurs. And we're just really honored to present the awards. I want to start this program by giving you just a little bit of a reflection on Sam Watkins, our predecessor, and let me know why we honored him in a special way. So we have a quick video presentation that we want to share, and then we can cue up the video. We're ready. here tonight. And some of the key words that came out of that was being a catalyst for the economic renaissance that's currently underway in West Louisville. It began largely with the leadership of Sam Watkins Jr. I recall Sam advising 3 previous mayors who always would call upon him for his advice in terms of how we address economic needs in the community. He was certainly here, and when we turned the corner and convinced people like the Metro Housing Authority to take on the challenge of redoing beach terrace, and then all the catalytic work that has happened since then, all of that goes back to the work of this giant man. So I'm just honored again to present this award. We do have 6 categories. 6 categories of the Lifeway Entrepreneurial Excellence Award. And for each of those categories, we have a presenting sponsor. And so we're going to call upon our sponsors who are here with us to join in this celebration. We are going to ask our honorees as you come up and receive the award. We'll give you a chance to have some remarks, but we also want you to stay up here on stage. And that's why we have these 6 chairs up here. Because at the end of this, we want to have a great giant photo op. We've got Thank Benny and the other team here to take pictures. We'll make sure we have a great photo op here for everybody. So, 6 categories. I'm just going to highlight them before we get into the details. The 6 categories are arts and culture. And that means a lot to this organization because a lot of our work as a community-based nonprofit is to advance arts and culture and commerce within this market. The next category is advancing equity, which for us is our mission statement. We're here to advance equity, and certainly our value statement is leadership. So that's just the 3rd category is leadership, and we're always looking for ways to help new businesses to start up. So we have a category of startup and innovation. And then the next category is economic development, which is what we're seeing more and more of, and that we need more and more of here in West Louisville is economic development that empowers our community to lead. And then lastly, but certainly not least, celebration in both. Those are the 6 categories. And I'm really honored to be the presenting sponsor of the first category, arts and culture. And certainly as we go through the process of vetting who in this community is doing it, the impact or leading the way in these different dimensions, nobody's doing it better than our dear friend, childhood friend, and great leader of this community, Rhona Bowles. Let's give Rhona a hand. Museum, we all know, is located in the heart of our city in downtown Louisville, a place where visitors can come and see themselves in history. Come on up, Mom. And as I continue to read your bio, and we want, if you haven't been over, we want you to go there to explore African American history, the stories that are being told, that are touching people from around the world that are visiting that awesome facility. At a very young age, Vermont recognized the importance of telling our story. And it was not only about Black history, but also about American history. Vermont prides himself in teaching future versus the past, because he believes that if we teach the future, we will not repeat the atrocities of the past. And I'm just honored. Come on up, Vermont. And that's the script part. I got to talk about this brother because I've been knowing him since we were kids. He was a football All-American, sandball All-American with the PCC Bears back in the day. And when he was up there in Smoketown, we were kicking it together back then. We went on to college together at WKU. And I couldn't think of a better way to honor you tonight. Thank you, your lovely wife, for being here tonight to share this celebration.
And if you ever come to Route 21, I would say the descendants of kings and queens that were enslaved in America. That's a game changer, what we have heard. But with the bulldozers, jackhammers, and engineers for engineering degrees, which means what? We built this place. Thank you for the honor. Didn't expect, I mean, I can't, it's hard for me to accept awards if I didn't do it for awards. You know, I've chased a lot of business dreams, but now I'm chasing a purpose. And now that I have this purpose, I'm changing the community day by day. And thank you for this. Thank you.
All right, let's give it Rhona Bowles another hand. And I'm so very honored to be presenting sponsor that first category. But I'm also excited about presenting introducing the next presenting sponsor. I think he's here. I know he should be. Aaron McGahee. There you go. Come on up, Aaron. Aaron McGahee, Finance Research Group. He and his firm were last year's honoree for this very same award for the very same category. And I was so deep in touch when he reached out and personally hand-delivered his sponsorship check for this particular year's award. And so he's going to present the award for advancing equity. Come on up.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fields, for the wonderful opportunity to come and speak to such an awesome audience. I see a lot of friends in the crowd today, and that's my neighbor, y'all. We're business neighbors. We always say hi to each other. Being on the same stage as Lamont Collins is a privilege and a pleasure. It's just awesome to be here. And if I seem youthful in my speech today, it's because I am a young pup in this game, and I have the opportunity to give back to people who have given to me. The reason I wanted to sponsor this event is because Mr. Fields and I will say William Starks, I know you don't like being called out, but they saw something in me when all I had was a business plan, right? And everybody has a good plan. But that business plan has been going on for about 3 years now, and earlier this year we hit our 5-year milestone. And we did all of that in Russell neighborhood. So shout out to those who have decided that they no longer want to clock in and clock out. Those individuals who were brave enough to give up a 40-hour work week to work every day, every hour, for as long as the mission takes. I do have a passage that I'll read, and then I promise I will get to what I'm supposed to be doing. Les Brown is a huge figure in my life as far as encouraging me to step outside my comfort zone and to do a little bit more and to be a little bit more, which is why I now have a wonderful opportunity to continue to harass you. I'm going to use his closing remarks as a way of revitalizing the entrepreneurial spirit in our bodies, in our minds, and in our hearts, so that we can continue to push through and see awards ceremonies like this happen year in and year out without fail or hesitation. From the words of Les Brown, if you want a thing bad enough to go out and fight for it, work day and night for it. If you give up your time and your peace and your sleep for it, if all that you dream and scheme is about it, and life seems useless and hopeless without it, if you gladly sweat for it and fret for it, and lose all your terrible opposition for it, if you simply go after that thing that you want with all of your capacity and stern pertinacity, if neither cold poverty, famine, or gout, sickness, or pain of body and brain can keep you away from the thing that you want, if dogged and grim, if you besiege and beset it, with the help of God, you'll get it. Amen. That is the determination that puts us in this room, and that is the determination, and I hope that the peace carries into tomorrow and the days after. All right, now to what I'm supposed to be doing. Letty Johnson is the CEO founder of Gifted by Design Leadership and Consulting LLC. With over 20 years of experience from transforming organizations and individuals across different sectors, she is a highly experienced and accomplished John Maxwell certified coach, teacher, trainer, and speaker. That's a lot. Letty offers a holistic, values-based approach to personal and professional development by connecting, consulting, and coaching people and organizations to maximize their potential. Gifted by Design also offers workshops, team building, seminars, keynote speaking as a part of their full suite of services. Letty is also a licensed diversity, equity, and inclusion facilitator using her skills in communication methods to assist individuals and organizations in maximizing their capacity and reaching their full potential. She serves on the board both locally and nationally, and is a graduate of Leadership Louisville's Bingham program. This led to the founding of 3 organizations: the 3003 Collaborative 501c3, the 3003 Campaign 501c4, and the 3003 PAC. These organizations are designed to improve the lives of Black Kentuckians by advancing leaders, policies, and systems that end structural racism. Letty has been acknowledged by Local Business First as an enterprising woman, demonstrating her excellence and leadership in the field. It is now my pleasure to present the Sam Watkins Jr. Award for Advancing Equity to Letty Johnson.
This afternoon. Always an honor to stand before community as I represent our community across this globe. I represent our community across this globe. The good work that is happening here in Louisville, Kentucky, I am always proud to represent. First, let me say to Mr. Fields and the team, thank you so much for honoring me and recognizing the work that I get to do, right? I get to be here and serve in
University with a dual bachelor's who has supported me anytime that I did a change and woke up one day and said, hey, I want to change this and do this. They have always been there for me and always supported me. That's to my extended family as well, Miss Tony and Miss Hattie, my friends who have supported me since college. There is just nothing that they have not supported me on, and I do truly appreciate that. Because, you know, we seem to think that we don't support each other, but that is far from the truth. We support each other in all things. Case being that when I did decide to jump out there, again, family was supportive with them when I came to the LTC. I had Mr. Fields that supported me, Mr. William Starks, who's always been my mentor in real estate. So I thank you and I appreciate both of you guys who've been fantastic. And it's just been a blessing to help and really learn what I want to do and how to do it and help my community and be a part of it, and also just continue to keep going on, letting people know that there is hope, there is a way. We just have to work hard, we have to be continuous in what we do, we have to be intentional in what we do. And that means financial literacy, that means we have family, that means everything that we do, we need to be what we are meant to be. So I do thank you, I thank everyone for supporting me. And to all entrepreneurs, yeah, it's hard, it is hard, but it's doable, and if you have a passion, you have to go after that passion, you have to be diligent in it. And look around, you do have support, don't ever think that you're doing it by yourself, because you're not. You definitely have support, we have a team, we have family. So I appreciate it, and I thank each and every one of you.
She's a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated and a commissioner on the Louisville Metro Human Relations Commission. Rhona spends most days utilizing her skills, knowledge, and training to build a community, promote cultural awareness, and preservation.
G Starks is our leasing agent because of his